Hi everyone, my name is Eleanor and I studied in Australia for about 6 years as an international student, and today I'd like to tell you a bit about my university studies and my experiences by answering 30 common questions that I've prepared together with Skandias, and hopefully these will answer some of your own questions that you might have before you decide to start an adventure like this. So if you haven't seen them already, I have a few blog posts on Skandias' website where I talk about my university studies and things like that in more detail. So if you're curious, just have a look at them after this video as well. So I've studied a total of 3 courses overseas. I started with a diploma, followed by a bachelor degree, and then also a master's degree. But the master's was in the UK though. It all started in Australia in 2008, right after I finished high school. So, 30 common questions, and these are things that you might be wondering about or maybe a little bit worried about before making the decision to go overseas to Australia to study. So question 1, why did you want to study abroad? I always felt like I wanted to go somewhere, and somewhere warm. I think I wanted to escape the Swedish winter, and I always wanted to study at a university in an English-speaking country. It might sound a bit silly, but this was one of my biggest dreams during high school. It was sometimes quite hard to plan for such big ideas since traveling alone can seem quite scary, and your friends and family might not always share the same adventure-seeking dreams as you, but this actually made me feel even more sure about what I wanted to do, and the adventure was definitely the right thing for me. Why did you pick Australia? I knew that Australia was going to be awesome, awesome and exciting on the other side of the world, very exotic, but it did actually feel quite far away at first. So I started looking at something that was a bit closer to home. I'd already had a few language trips to the UK, so I thought the US would be the next logical step. But for some reason, I sent my application in for a course too late, so the next option for me was actually Brisbane, and that was fine with me because that was actually where I wanted to go anyway. So I thought to myself, why not? Let's just do it. And that's what happened. How did you decide on what to study? Well, this depends a little bit because I kind of randomly just picked a diploma to start in Brisbane. I just wanted to try it out and see if I liked it, see if I liked living here, studying here, to later continue with my university studies, and that's exactly what happened. I had such a great time. I loved it in Brisbane, and after this it was clear that I wanted to stay and continue my university studies here as well. So after the course completion, I had to go home and save a bit of money, and then I applied for university starting in 2010. I picked something that I thought was my thing. It was a Bachelor of Design, Landscape Architecture, and this is because I love sketching, I love the environment and landscapes, and this turned out to not be my thing at all, actually. So I had to change degrees in my second year, and I changed into Applied Sciences and Geoscience, and I loved it. So sometimes I think you just need to try a few different things before you find your way. My best advice is to think about things that you enjoy and your passion and see where that takes you. Will my studies be recognised in Sweden? This is a great question, and I think most higher degrees seem to be recognised, but if it's something very specific, I think you need to talk to the different departments in Sweden just to make sure you know what you need to do in order to have it all recognised. I think some specific areas might require you to do an extra bit of study, something like that in Sweden, but I didn't have to do this, so I don't know much about it, but definitely go and talk to different departments to make sure you know what you need to do. This is more important if you're studying a whole degree overseas, not so much if you're doing an exchange semester or an exchange year, because that will count towards your Swedish degree anyway, and you'll be fine. How and where did you find options for universities in Australia? So I think I got a bit lucky with this one because I was already in Brisbane studying my diploma at a college, and I got to walk around and actually see the universities in real life. It made it a lot easier for me to pick a place because I already knew that I wanted to be in Brisbane, so that really helped. But before I left Sweden, I went to sessions about studying overseas. I got to talk to a few different representatives from different universities from all over the world, and I also Googled a lot of information. The best things to talk to the experts, different agencies, because they know the areas well. They know what's offered at the different universities, and if you talk to agencies such as Skandias, they will be able to put you in the right direction to look for the things that you're after in a degree as well. Was it hard to find accommodation in Australia? No, in general, no. It's quite easy to find a place to live in Australia, especially compared to the housing market in Sweden. There are a few options though that you can look at. So the general ones are you could either talk to an agency in Sweden who will sort this out for you even before you get to Australia. This usually means that you have to pay for the whole stay beforehand, but it's definitely the quickest and easiest way to do it because you'll have it all sorted when you get there. The second option is that you talk to the universities and ask for their student accommodation options. This is great in a way because you'll share with other university students, so you won't feel lonely. You'll get friends straight away from that experience. This can be a little bit more expensive, but it's also quite reliable. The third option is to go for private house sharing. This is a little bit trickier. Not in the way that it's difficult to find a place, because you'll find a place pretty quickly anyway, within a couple of weeks, but you need to be here and see the place before you sign anything, because otherwise things can go wrong. You don't know the people who are advertising, you don't know the people that you'll be sharing with, and you don't know what the place looks like. So you need to be here and sign before you sign the papers if you're going for that option. Question 7. How did you finance your studies? So I had a student loan and I also had to work part-time. Were you ever worried about student loans? I was a little bit worried in the beginning because the tuition fees are quite high as an international student in Australia, but I knew that it would be worth it because you're investing in your future and investing in your career. You'll be able to pay it back later when you have your dream job. So that's the way I looked at it. It's an investment in your future. Did you have much savings before you moved? I had some savings, but that only helped me for about a year, and after this I had to get a part-time job as well. Were you scared or nervous about the move? I wasn't scared. I was maybe a little bit nervous, but I think mainly excited. It's this big adventure that's about to start. It's a very cool feeling and mainly excited, I think. So question 11. Was it difficult to get used to their study systems? I had nothing really to compare it to, but it still probably took me about 6 months to get used to the general things such as structures of the lectures and tutorials, where to go and who to talk to if you have questions, maybe even up to a year to get used to how to prepare for final exams and how to write the reports and things like that. So it will take you a little while, but after a year you're sweet. Were you ever worried that you might fail? I was worried at times because, different subjects, are different. Some will be more difficult, some will be easier. And failing a subject at a university in Australia means that you have to wait a whole year to redo it. There are no second chances unless you get a very marginal fail, and in that case you might get a supplementary assessment. But in general, this means that you have to redo the subject again the next year, or if you're lucky, it's offered the next semester. This means that you have to pay for it again, and it sometimes puts parts of your degree on hold. Question 13. This is a very common question. What happens if you don't like what you're studying? A lot of people seem to worry about this one. I actually think it's quite good to try a few different things. If you love it from the start, then congratulations, you've found it straight away. But more often I think people, and I had this and many of my friends had this, people have to try a few things before they realize what they're actually into and what they actually like. So I changed my university degree completely in my second year, after a year and a half. And that was no problem at all. I got to transfer all my electives through to the next course, and I had the same set time frame for the courses, so it was all fine. If you're changing into something that's more similar to what you were studying before, you'll be able to transfer more units as well. And I actually even changed universities and states completely for 1 year when my husband got a new job in Melbourne. So we moved to Melbourne and I finished my studies at a new university there. I got to transfer my whole degree across, and that was all fine as well. It's very exciting to try a new place and see the system in a different state. It's still quite similar, but still very exciting. Did you have to be fluent in English before you started? I think you need to have a good understanding of the English language beforehand, but most Scandinavians will have this already when graduating high school. Some courses will require that you take an English test before you start, while other courses might just accept your high school English grades. So you need to translate your high school certificate, that's very important, into English before you apply as well. How is the university different compared to Sweden? I think the general ideas are the same. It's just the way that the academic year is run that's a bit different. So in general, you have 2 semesters. The first one starts in February and runs until June. And then you'll have a mid-year break of about 3 to 4 weeks, followed by the second semester, which is from July until November. And then you have the huge summer break over Christmas from November until February. And this is a great opportunity to go traveling or visit your family. And if you have a job, it's a good way to save up some money as well. So each semester you'll have 3 to 4 subjects all at the same time from start to finish. This can be quite stressful at times because you'll have assignments and lab reports, practicals, and sometimes even small exams during the semester as well. And each semester is followed by a period called the exam period. This is basically where the university schedules all the final exams for all the subjects pretty much at the same time, usually 3 to 4 weeks in that period. If you want to know more about these things, you can comment a question below, or you can have a look at one of my blog posts as well on Skandias' website. We'll try to answer the questions as soon as possible. Another quick thing to mention is that it's quite common in Sweden to wait a few years before you start studying at a university, and that's not usually the case in Australia because they generally start straight out of high school. And in some states, for Queensland especially, because this is where I've been as well, I've noticed that a lot of people are very young when they start their university degrees, 17 years old or 18. This means that you might feel a little bit old when you start your degree, but that's fine. I was 21 when I started mine, and then compared to my husband, who had a whole 4-year bachelor degree completed at the age of 22. Question 16. Did you ever feel homesick? Yes, not so much in the beginning, but definitely towards the end of my degree. Even though you have 3 months over the summer to go and see your family, that might not always be enough, especially when there's special celebrations or holidays coming up, maybe during the mid-semester break or mid-year break. You feel a little bit lonely, but this is completely normal, so you don't need to worry and you will get through it. What did you do when you felt homesick? I try to make sure I stayed active, try to make sure that I had things to do to avoid feeling lonely. Working and exercising are good options to try to actually go out and meet people even though you might feel a little bit down. So go to the movies, go to the beach, and for me, I usually went to IKEA to go for a wander and maybe even have a Swedish lunch, and that really helped me. What was your favourite course or degree in Australia and why? My favourite course is probably the university degree, by far actually, because it's a lot bigger, a lot cooler, and a lot more serious. I love the academic environment, and the study atmosphere is just really cool. However, if you just want to try something shorter, like a 6 months to 12 months course or something at a college, that's a good option. If you just want to try it out and before you make a big decision, that's a better option because it's often cheaper as well. What was the most difficult thing that you had to do while studying in Australia? I was very shy when I got here, so I had to grow a lot as a person. I had to become very independent and learn how to talk in public, ask the questions in lectures when I needed to, and things like that. That was very scary in the beginning, but you definitely learn how to do that. You get through it. And what was the toughest part of studying at a university overseas in general? So I think this, you probably have this pretty much anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter where you study, but managing the work, life and study balance. So sometimes you just need to take a day off, even though you have things to do, you need to rest as well. And on top of that, sometimes feeling homesick can make it a little bit difficult, but you'll get through it, it's manageable. Especially with all the friends you make, you have lots of friends around you, so it make it a lot easier. And if you ever feel like the study load is a bit much at the university, there are lots of study groups, great study groups, so you can go there and connect with people and get through the tougher parts. So that's really great as well. Did you have to work, and was it difficult to find an income during your studies? And yes, I did have to work, and yes and no. It was a bit difficult in the beginning because I didn't really have a lot of experience working in Australia, so I had to find places such as a cafe that were willing to teach me about hospitality and customer service. And after that, it was quite easy to get jobs. I worked in several different cafes, not at the same time though, but I also worked as a bartender and in retail. Question 22, I'm very shy. Is that going to be a problem? You'll learn how to not be shy. Like I mentioned earlier, I was very shy when I got here, and it took a little while to get over this, but you learn how to do it. So the best way is just to put yourself out there, and you can do it. Was it hard to find friends and feel part of the community? Not at all. There are lots of people in your course, lots of domestic students and international students. So, and the university often has excursions and travels and sporting events organised, so you won't feel alone. The best way to find friends is through collaborative exercises, I think, because you start working with someone, if there's a teamwork session, and you start to get to know people, and you might continue to hang out after and study together after this as well. And quite often you'd see people who got to know each other and they actually start looking for a place together, a house to share with other students, and that's a great way as well. And if you have a job on the side, that way you'll find a lot of people and friends as well. How's a degree overseas going to help me in Sweden? This is a very important question, I think, and it's a very valuable thing, because you'll get very valuable experience in many areas, not just in your specific degree. You learn how to be independent and ambitious, since you work hard towards goals that you set for yourself in planning the journey, looking for a place to live in a country that you've never been to before. You learn a language fluently, you show strength in decision making, and appears a very ambitious person who knows what he or she wants. And having studied and worked in an international environment will be very attractive on a CV. You will definitely stand out. In what way have your studies contributed towards your main goals or career today? I've been able to study in a very international field and prepare for a career in academia, which is my goal. And this means that I could potentially continue my studies and work in many different areas of the world, which is very exciting. My bachelor degree in Australia led to my master's in the UK, and from there I'm now looking at a PhD in geosciences where I can work in international research. Where have your degrees taken you today? So I'm in the middle of finding the right PhD position for me. I'm more confident and I'm prepared for an international workplace. Do you want to move back to Sweden? The short answer is yes. My Australian husband and I are actually in the middle of planning a move to Sweden. It will be quite hard to leave a place like this though. Australia is a great country to live in, but we're looking forward to going to Sweden. What was the best part about studying at a university in Australia? For me, the best things include the climate. You're basically living in a tropical paradise. The beaches, the people, and the multicultural atmosphere. The food quality is great, and the coffee. I love coffee, and all the friends that I've made. These things may vary a little bit depending on what you like and where you are, but you'll definitely have a good time. What does Australia have that's different compared to other countries? Well, it's a very multicultural country, which I love, and you'll find that the lifestyle is quite different to what you might be used to. It's very relaxed and people are very friendly. The attitude is that anything is possible as long as you're willing to put in the work and the effort as well. Nothing's too hard or difficult because people believe in you and they're there for you. On top of that, the country is pretty much the same size as Europe. It's very big, so the city that you decide to live in or study in might be very different to a state next to you. So there are many options. It's quite hard sometimes to pick a place to start your adventure. I'm very lucky in the way that I got to experience two capital cities, both Brisbane and Melbourne, as a student. But as students, you also get a lot of opportunities to travel during holidays and other things. So don't worry that you might not be able to see a lot of Australia because you're studying, because you'll be able to see a lot. So don't worry about that. Is it worth studying overseas? That's the final question, and it's a very important one. And in short, yes, definitely. Of course, it depends on what you decide to study and what you want to do, but for me, it was the absolute best decision I could have ever made after finishing high school. I've had so many great opportunities through these years and developed so many valuable skills. I don't think I would have had the same if I stayed in Sweden the whole time. You get so much more than just a degree. You develop and grow as a person. It's amazing. It prepares you for international career. You develop language skills, communication skills, self-esteem, confidence improves, and you develop a better understanding of the world. And these are things that are very sought after in a competitive workplace. So even if you decide to just do a shorter course, like an exchange or just for a year, it's definitely worth it. And I quote one of my lecturers on this, on studying overseas. It's a no-brainer, just do it. And I have a bonus question for people who are scared of spiders. And you don't need to worry. Don't listen to what people tell you because they're not everywhere. So don't worry at all. So thank you very much. That was all for today. If you feel like we haven't covered all the questions, just send us an email or comment below and we'll try to answer it as soon as possible. If you have further questions with regards to how to start your adventure and your studies, you can talk to Skandias. They have services offering advice and guidance with regards to universities, visas and general aspects on where to start. And the good thing is that they have people both in Sweden and Australia, so you'll never feel alone. And for those who are curious, I have my own personal blog at swassispåäventyr.blogspot.com.au. It's in Swedish though, but if you're curious, just have a look there as well. Thank you so much.